impacting the Republican National Convention. And day one, not how Mitt Romney or the Republicans really wanted to kick things off. The delegates have arrived in Tampa to nominate Romney, but thanks to the threat from Isaac, day one was short, really short. Bill Ritter is in Tampa. He begins our coverage. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening to you, Liz, from Tampa. Yeah, really short, like a couple seconds short. You know, the Republicans gambled on Isaac, gambled that it would hit Tampa. They lost that gamble, and in the process, as you said, had a short convention. They called off this first day of the 40th Republican presidential nominating convention. They called it off, but gavelled this confab nonetheless. They gavelled it open, then very quickly they gavelled it adjourned, at least until tomorrow. They did introduce something downstairs, though, on the floor, a debt clock showing the more than $15 trillion in national debt rising every second. In fact, to make that point, they have a second clock showing how much the debt will likely increase in the next 4 days. That is a continual click. That message perhaps lost in translation, though, because of Isaac, and some of the more ardent Republican figures of the party, like Gulf state governors, won't even be here. They will be home dealing with the storm. For Mitt Romney, this means some tough decisions about the tone of this convention over the next couple days. It was supposed to help reintroduce the former governor to the nation, as one political analyst told us, giving him a second chance to make a first impression. There is no question about it. Much debate about the focus of what should now be included on this convention. Debate among the delegates, to be sure. Our political reporter, Dave Evans, spending time with delegates from our area with this part of our coverage. They are talking about this.
Well, Bill, as you've seen in the last couple of weeks, these have not been great weeks for Mitt Romney. His big European adventure just a couple of weeks ago during the Olympics, it did not go as planned. Also, we've seen so much controversy in the last few days over the Missouri Senate candidate Todd Akin and what he said about legitimate rape. Those are his words. And then we now have here in just the last few days this big storm brewing in the Gulf.
Mitt Romney's in a tough spot this week, celebrating his nomination, while much of the nation is worried about the Gulf and Isaac.
Our thoughts are with the people that are in the storm's path and hope that they're spared any major destruction.
Would you give any thought to canceling the convention?
Had a great convention ahead.
The convention is Romney's big chance to speak to a nation worried about the economy. The loss of Monday forces him to cram 4 days into 3.
It's unfortunate it happened, but Monday tends to be more of a pro forma type day. So we'll pack it in all Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
At today's New York breakfast, a few delegates said the loss of Monday was no big deal, but others disagreed, especially with the possibility of New Orleans hurting all over again.
So you're going to have the lower part of this country focused on a storm that's coming into New Orleans. So you'll lose that media area. And so it does hurt. It does impact us because we got great speakers.
And if Isaac's as bad as some are predicting, Romney's convention could become a disaster.
Do you want a celebratory political event while New Orleans is suffering again? What does Mitt Romney do? Does the president dispatch, thousands of people and take the play away?
All Romney can do right now is stay the course. He's working on his speech in New Hampshire and hoping Isaac doesn't intrude anymore.
And it is important, though, that Mitt Romney take advantage of that because he has to present himself to the American people. They really don't know him yet.
And there are 2 new polls out today, one here in Florida showing a very tight race. Same thing in North Carolina, site of the Democratic Convention in Charlotte next week. And as we saw, Bill, in just the last 24 hours, a new ABC poll shows nationwide it is a very, very tight race, a dead heat between the president and Governor Romney.
Yeah, virtually tight, statistically tight. And, of course, if President Obama does get involved and there's disaster in New Orleans, it will can't help but compare.
Oh, there are going to be big comparisons between if that does happen, how this president handles it and how President Bush handled Katrina.
Let's hope it doesn't get to that.
Let's hope.
Sure.
Yes.
Dave Evans, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, David. Meanwhile, New Jersey Governor Christie.
Well, Isaac mostly missed Tampa. That news, though, came too late to save the first day of the Republican National Convention. But the delegates there still expect Mitt Romney to get a big boost from their RNC. News 4's Governor's reporter Melissa Russo is live in Tampa tonight with more on that. Melissa.
Chuck, they are hoping he'll get that boost. Remember, as you mentioned, the convention is in recess right now. There are some musicians rehearsing behind me. You may hear them performing in just a few seconds. But some Republicans were actually pleased to see driving rains and tornadoes. Here they are, those musicians rehearsing for tomorrow. But driving rains and tornado warnings hitting the area just within the last couple of hours because they had relatively mild weather until the past couple of hours, and they really didn't want day one of the convention to have been canceled for no reason.
in session and called to order.
The convention started, then stopped in a matter of minutes, on and off, just like the crazy Florida weather.
We're going to walk on the beach.
Some members of the New York delegation, who are staying in a hotel right here on Clearwater Beach, looked out the window this morning and asked themselves whether day one of the RNC really needed to be canceled after all.
I think this was a lot to do about nothing.
Obviously don't look too bad out there today.
Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano and a couple hundred other New Yorkers were up early with nothing to do. They're itching to get the convention started, hoping Isaac won't interfere too much more.
The convention has to move forward.
With safety in mind, official convention business was curtailed today, taking less than 10 minutes, including a prayer.
Please bow your heads as we pray.
And a Mitt Romney image campaign.
The American ideals of economic freedom and opportunity need a clear and unapologetic defense, and I intend to make it because I have lived it.
Even his Republican supporters say the pressure is on Romney to humanize himself fast.
Governor Romney's main job right now, he has to connect with real people. He has to show that he is a real person, that he's not just a corporate giant.
As a woman, I think that he needs to focus on the women's vote.
He has to hit a home run on Thursday night when he gives his speech.
In case you're wondering why the Republicans bothered to gavel in today instead of just starting tomorrow, here's one big part of the answer: a new debt clock that counts the national debt racked up during this convention. And as you can imagine, Republicans wanted to start running that clock right away. They did not want to wait until tomorrow. And as of 2 o'clock, the nation has racked up $330 million in debt. One of the Republican messages we'll be hearing more about this week. Live from Tampa, Melissa Russo, News 4 New York. Sheba and Chuck, back to you.
Isaac is causing big problems for the Republican National Convention. It is being held this week in Tampa, Florida. Proceedings began today, but they stayed in session for about 10 minutes officially. Then they wrapped things up. They are waiting for the storm to blow through, and then political business will really get underway tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Harry Martin is live in Tampa. He'll be there all week with the political proceedings. Harry, what's it like down there?
Hello, Greg. Well, you know what? As you said, there's not a lot of official business going on here today, but boy, was there a lot of drama behind the scenes. It involved Governor Christie, especially since a story surfaced that he actually turned down the vice presidency spot.
You got two choices. You can either sidle up next to him or punch him in the face first, so we decided to punch him in the face first.
That's vintage Governor Christie recounting the time that he came to the aid of California Governor Meg Whitman when she was being heckled on the campaign trail. Christie was not saying anything about a story today, however, that says that he didn't want the spot as Mitt Romney's vice president because he thought that the ticket would lose. In fact, this walkthrough this morning at the Tampa Bay Times Forum was really the only time we saw the governor. And as far as giving up what he's going to be saying in Tuesday night's keynote address, well,
Tomorrow. You'll find out.
In fact, the governor is so camera shy these days that he held a pen and pencil session this afternoon in Tampa. No cameras allowed. Congressman Peter King says the story about Christie's turning down the vice presidency, though, simply doesn't fly.
I don't think that Governor Christie was ever considered ahead of Paul Ryan or Rob Portman.
But some political commentators say that turning down the vice presidential spot is exactly what Christie did.
Christie looks at the political calculus nationally. He knows where he is in a gubernatorial issue. He knows that he's in his first term. And as he's been clear about, when I'm ready for that job, that's another issue.
Now, late this afternoon, Governor Christie said absolutely false on that story. Never happened. He was never offered the vice presidency spot, Greg.
Okay, Harry, so what do they do down there when they call out the convention for a day?
Well, you know what? They have to be really a little bit careful here because of the pending hurricane. They want to make sure that they don't have pictures of a lot of celebration down here, a lot of partying, a lot of the delegates with their traditional hats, when you also have other people across the nation who may be in really some dire straits. So it's really one of public perception. And I think they're probably fine-tuning this convention as they go.
Okay, Harry Martin, thank you very much, and we'll see you down there all week. Harry will be reporting for.
All right, Lonnie, and Isaac all but wiped out the first day of the Republican National Convention.
The 2012 Republican National Convention stands in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
That's the party chairman, Reince Priebus, gaveling the GOP's big party to a halt just minutes after it got underway this afternoon. Republicans did unveil a new national debt clock, as they call it, to highlight their criticism of the economy under President Obama and to prepare for the high-profile speeches beginning tomorrow night. That is when Governor Christie will deliver the convention's keynote. CBS 2's Marcia Kramer live in Tampa now with more on this star turn for a rising political star. Marcia?
Well, Maurice, Mitt Romney hasn't arrived in Tampa yet, so the biggest Republican star seems to be Christie. And I can tell you he is everywhere. I even saw 2 Christie billboards on the way to the convention center today. But although he's a talkative guy, on some topics, mum's the word.
They brought me down here specifically, as I'm sure you know. Brought me down here on Sunday just to make sure if there's any idiots who are on the beach, tell them to get the hell off the beach. Some lines are so good they never go away.
Hurricane Isaac was one of the topics Hurricane Chris was only too happy to talk about as he did star turn after star turn at the Republican convention. One topic was off limits, however. Headlines in New York that Christie didn't seek the vice presidential nomination because he didn't think Mitt Romney would win. And Romney wanted him to quit being governor if he was number 2 on the ticket. Governor Christie, there's a story that says you wouldn't run for vice president because Romney wanted you to quit as governor. Governor Christie, any comment on the story?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Although their boss was publicly mum, his aides privately denied the story. You can say the Christie team is aggressively batting the story down, said an aide, adding it was completely not true. The story claimed Christie would have had to quit as governor to run nationally because of campaign financing rules. Many Republicans weren't buying it.
That's not Christie. This kind of environment, you get a lot of different stories, but I'm sure it's been denied. I'm sure it's not true.
As far as I'm concerned, Paul Ryan was the best choice. I believe he was the first choice. And, Governor Christie is giving the keynote, and that's it.
Pundits say Christie might have been a better number 2 for the Republican ticket.
Christie, in the short run, would have been a better play because we wouldn't be sitting in Florida, the elderly capital of the world, talking about Medicare.
Well, about an hour ago, Christie met with reporters where he planned to deny the story, but he barred cameras and tape recorders. So I ask, what's up with that? Reporting live from Tampa, I'm Marcia Kramer, CBS 2 News.
Okay,